Well, hello again, and welcome back to Beyond the Compass, where travelers and the paranormal meet at the crossroads. I am your host, Eric Garcia, and today we have a very special location we're going to visit in Pennsylvania. Now, there are places where art meets beauty, and then there are places where art meets blood, myth, and belief, etched into relics forged in fear. Our guest today is Edmondo Crimi, the director and chief curator of Vampa, the Vampire and Paranormal Museum, a sanctuary for the strange and sacred, nestled on a stunning 5-acre historic property within the wooded edges of Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Vampa is not your typical museum. It's a portal, a place where vampire killing kits, exorcism chairs, antique talking boards, and rare supernatural artifacts tell stories that span centuries and cultures. Ritual artifacts crafted not out of whimsy, but conviction. Vampa's collection isn't just rare, it's haunted by history, belief, and the war between light and darkness that continues to ripple through every culture and faith. But Vampa is more than just a cabinet of curiosities. Under Edmondo's guidance, it's a living conversation about myth, faith, fear, and beauty, where psychological drama and spiritual conflict are given free rein through art. So whether you're marveling at a vampire kit with a 1760s Bible, discovering the hidden cleansing room used for real ritual training in Rome, or attending one of their unforgettable events like the Devil and Daisy Dirt, Vampa promises an experience unlike any other. So tonight we enter sacred ground where mirrors are banished and art is a weapon. This is Vampa, and this is Edmondo Crimi. Edmondo, welcome to the show, sir.
How are you? How you doing today?
I am doing great. It is a pleasure to talk to you. We'll jump right into it. A few weeks back, I found a video of one of the YouTubers I follow, the Carpetbagger, and he he visited your museum. And
Yes, yes.
I'm like, okay, I need to find out about this place. And then I started watching all these other videos, and I'm like, oh, I need to go here. But so let's just jump right into it. What inspired you to establish Vampa, and how did your personal background influence this endeavor?
Well, basically, I got started when hearing stories from my father. My grandfather's brother and uncle were full-time priests in Catania, Italy, in Sicily. And that's all they did was exorcisms. That's what they did. They were priests and full-time exorcists, which they normally are. They would just do that. Hearing the stories, reading manuscripts that they wrote, I got interested in the supernatural. And I always loved art in general. I love sculpture. I love paintings. I've been an antique dealer since I was 17. And putting the two together, I decided to collect wonderful artifacts from throughout the world.
Wow. And that's been going on for about 40 years now?
It's been going on, yeah, for over 45 years.
That's amazing. So, do you recall what was the first piece that sparked your passion for this unique collection?
The first piece I purchased in the Marché aux Puces in Paris, France, and it was a vampire killing set. It had 3 daggers in it, a gun with silver bullets, and holy water, and obviously crucifix. And believe it or not, I actually brought it back on the plane with me. Can you imagine bringing a gun and 3 daggers on a plane?
This had to be the 70s or 80s or
This
late
was the
80s.
70s, yes.
I was going to say, I mean, weren't they still smoking on the planes
Yeah,
back
oh
then
yeah,
too?
oh yeah, I hated that, yeah.
Yeah,
So I brought it back on the plane with me.
wow. Well, you know what? If you can smoke on a plane, I think you can bring a vampire killing kit.
Exactly.
That's what I always say. So, and I saw here that something really fascinating to me, like your background, in addition to your family with a history of being an exorcist, you attended a course on exorcisms at the Sacerdotes Institute in Rome. How did that come about, and how did that experience influence the way you curate and interpret the museum's exhibits?
Well, I was very honored to be invited to that. I needed to get permission from my priest, as well as permission from the bishop in the Newark Basilica in New Jersey, and have a nun pray for me. It was an amazing opportunity. It's part of the Vatican course, and I was with 250 exorcists and about 150 exorcist candidates, and it was a very academic course. You know, it was very serious. We had obviously headphones because there were a lot of speakers from different countries, and I learned a lot. There were things that I already knew, but hearing it reiterated a lot of things that I heard stories from my family. Great honor to be involved in that.
And you were, I'm assuming you were a civilian. You weren't a priest.
Right. So I was a layperson. I'm a layperson, and that's a whole nother story. If you want to learn, a layperson can do what's called simple exorcisms, which is different than what a priest would perform. But I was a layperson at the time. I'm now a ordained minister, but at that time I was a layperson.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, because I did interview someone a few months back. He assists with exorcisms, and he even told me, he's like, I do not perform the exorcism on the person, but I can on the house, on the location. Is it something along those lines?
Well, an exorcism on a house would be demonic infestation. That's what's that called. That's either a house or even animals. A exorcism that would be performed on a person, it could be demonic possession, demonic oppression. I do not perform exorcisms, though I've been involved in exorcisms as a layperson doing prayers of liberation.
Can you share one of those experiences with us, as much as you're able to, or?
Yes, I can. I cannot go into some details of the
Of course,
course at Rome. There's things that I can talk about and things that we are not allowed to talk about. But
absolutely, I understand.
one of my personal experiences, and it's quite powerful for me. And it was the last time I performed involved with prayers of liberation. The demonic entity was taking possession of the person. And when the demonic entity started to speak, it started to speak directly to me. Now, I was stupid and foolish. You should never speak back in a situation like that. But I was in my, early 30s, and I just thought I could do that. Made a big mistake. So that's something I shouldn't do. But what was interesting is that demonic entity told me the last words that my father said before he passed on. And I've never shared that with anyone in my whole life. It made me a full believer because I never, ever shared those words with anyone.
Okay, I just got cold chills. Wow. Wow. And you say prayers of liberation. Now, are these something that the layperson can say to support the priest conducting the exorcism?
Absolutely. And they're not like magical words that you have to say something specific. It's really the edification of your soul and your heart. I mean, the demonic entities are obviously afraid of Jesus, obviously afraid of God, obviously afraid of the Archangel Michael, but their biggest fear is Mother Mary, believe it or not. They really shiver when they hear her name.
Yeah, the Mother of God. I have actually heard that once years ago when in moments of real fear of, the demonic. I mean, that would be the one prayer to go to. I've heard that a long time ago, even before I got involved in this. So as far as the artifacts go, now, how do you source new artifacts? I mean, what criteria do you use to determine their suitability for your museum?
Well, usually we go for a couple of different aspects. Aesthetics is very important. We like beautiful items. That's why our one display is called the Art of the Kill, because the items are really beautiful. And we're actually doing a coffee table book that will come out next year. That'd be very interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to be very fascinating. It's with a big company. It's going to be an international coffee table book.
That would
Then
be
I
great.
pick things that have paranormal energy. Paranormal does not mean demonic in any stretch of the imagination. So guardian angels are paranormal. A lot of times when people hear about paranormal, they think, oh, that's scary or that's evil, but that's not the case. So I
Mhm.
will find things that have strong paranormal activity. We have a lot of items now, so it has to be very special. Like I just purchased 2 weeks ago a 19th century carriage, which all has an interior all of leather, and it's supposedly haunted. This is an amazing object. I actually have right now a large hearse in the same genre, but I just got another piece. So I really am excited to bring that to the museum.
Wow, your place must be massive.
It's big, but actually the property is big because we have a big barn on the property. But the museum, I wish it was 5 times bigger at this point.
Wow, I can imagine. And that is the hearse is the vampire hunting hearse from Santorini, from what I
Yes,
understand.
yes.
And was that actually used? I mean, is there a history behind it that was a little, or how did it come to be in your possession?
Well, it's actually interesting. It was a very wealthy family, which I can't say the name, unfortunately. A lot of times you can't discuss provenance because it's just not, correct to do that. Very wealthy family shipped it to America. They were actually going to give it to a museum in Florida. They left it at a warehouse and they never paid the bill. And actually, they could have paid it. They could have wrote a check for $1 billion, and they could still afford it. So it's a very wealthy family, but it just got lost through the source through attorneys, and then they abandoned it. And then I was told about the item, and then I was purchasing it from the person that owned the warehouse. And then they found out about it, and they were actually okay with it, and I ended up with it. It's been in
Hmm.
Florida for probably about almost 17, 18 years at this point, and we just brought it in about a year and a half ago to the museum.
Wow. Now, the item was two primary things I wanted to ask about. The first one was the exorcism chair that you have on display. I mean, when I saw that in the video, I'm like, okay, that's very cool, but I would not stand anywhere near it. Um, how did that come about? I mean, and when you acquired it, what's the significance does it hold for you personally?
Well, I've owned that probably for about 30 years now, and it was purchased in Germany. I've had it in a crate all that time. I just really uncrated it a couple of years ago. Has a lot of energy to it. It's very elaborate, and they don't have to be that elaborate. This one is actually very particularly elaborate. It has leather straps that are hand tooled. It has some metal work, hand forged steel that holds the person in, but that's not usually what they have to look like. I mean, this was specifically used probably for a very intense exorcism, I would assume. The family that we got it from, their grandfather was also a priest, and they were doing exorcism. They didn't want it in the house, so we acquired it from them.
Yeah, because I mean, I never thought about it because you never. I've read a couple books on exorcisms. I'm in the middle of another one, and I mean, what I found fascinating, but from all these different authors, some were priests, some were not, but so many things were similar in their experiences, and these people were spread around the world. But in that, I never considered that they used a special chair for an exorcism. But then, at the same time, it would make sense.
And they don't always have to. I mean, that was particular. I mean, every exorcism is different. It is a very private situation. That's why people don't like to talk about it. I always hear, well, if it's true, then why don't they see it on YouTube? Well, a lot of people get operations. If this is an operation of the soul, you don't want to have your operation on YouTube. And it's private. It's something that
Mhm.
family members do not want to discuss. It's not even recommended to really see exorcisms that are real.
Yeah, because from the books that I've read, and when they describe one thing that's universal through all the different authors is the toll it takes on the family. I mean, they're just run ragged from the point to where, like, okay, they weren't sure anything was going on. They didn't believe it to the point where they had to bring in a priest. And by that time, they're just beat down emotionally, spiritually, almost physically, scratches and everything else. So I can understand why anyone would not want to share that, with the public.
Oh,
It's like,
absolutely. It is really horrific. It's a lot of intense energy. And a lot of times, the person that has a demonic entity in them, it might not be even about them. It might be about one of the family members and to affect their edification as well. A lot of times you see, especially in the movie, you see like in The Exorcist, the original Exorcist, where the head spins around and
right.
people like, oh, well, that's impossible. Yes, that's impossible, but it never happens. That's a demonic entity affecting your imagination, because I've been in
Okay.
situations where you would have two priests, and I've experienced this personally. Two priests and myself all see. One person saw levitation. Another person saw fingers being bent in directions that it couldn't physically be in. It's not happening. It's the entity affects the imagination. That's what that's about.
So they each saw different things, but at the same time.
Yes.
Wow. 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 That does explain a lot. Um, that is fascinating. Uh, I've heard a couple people I've interviewed on this podcast have had similar experiences to where it's like, no, it's not like what you see in the movies. It's actually very different. Now, do you, as a layperson, the steps you take prior to assisting in an exorcism are, I mean, do you fast? Do you go to a confession? I mean, are there steps you take prior to that you have to before you assist in the exorcism?
Absolutely. I mean, confession is very important. Now, there are different groups, different religions that have different ideas. So I'm basically basing this on Catholicism and the canons of Catholicism. Now, Russian Orthodox will be a little different, Judaism will be a little different,
Hmm.
Islam is a little different because that's with the jinn. But going by the canons of Catholicism, confession is probably one of the most important things you can do. That is extremely edificacious.
Right. Yeah, and I've heard a little. Whenever you see it in the movies, they're always showing the Catholic version of the exorcisms, and there's only, very few films. Only I've seen like one or two that deal like with the Judaism with their style. And what I've read of theirs, it's like 4 or 5 rabbis come in at once, working together like the A team, and they mean business. I
Yes,
would that
yes,
would
it's like that.
that would be fascinating to see. Now you have another. My sister would be very upset with me if I didn't ask you this because she loves dolls and her dolls scare me, but that's a whole other topic. So I understand you actually have a doll room that's noted for paranormal activity. Can you share some of the experiences visitors or even your staff may have had?
Sure. So we've had actually even last weekend, it was very, very intense. We have a doll room. There's one doll in particular. It's about 4.5 feet tall. It's from Burma. It's from the 19th century. And that seems to be the one item that has the most paranormal activity. Not necessarily, like I say, demonic. Now, the truth is, in front of our doll room, it does mention that some of the items have demonic energy. The only reason that sign still says that is that because I'm too cheap to change the word demonic. There's nothing in it that's demonic. I got to cross that out and just put paranormal. Because at the time, I was doing a pop up museum and there was an item that was extremely demonic, but we got rid of it. So I'm going to say paranormal. But we also have we have a situation where we have a entity on the property. Her name is Abigail. She's an 8-year-old girl. She roams around the doll room, and she's not nefarious by any stretch of the imagination. She's actually very calming and very sweet, but she likes to play in the doll room as well.
So it's like a big toy room for her.
Right. I mean, and she loves milk. This was an old dairy farm. When my children were young, they would always argue back and forth of who would go in their room and drink the milk. Or they would say that I fed the cats, I gave the cats milk, and now it's gone. My employees will have the refrigerator open, and there'll be a happy face of milk on the floor. I mean, for years we even thought that the guys were just playing games with each other. We did not name her until about maybe 6, 8 months ago. We had 3 paranormal investigators all give her the same name, and they didn't know anything about it. And have had the property now, it's 35 years. I've only seen her once, and that was 3 months ago. So in 35 years, I've never experienced visually seeing her, but a couple of months ago, I did see her for the first time.
And um, was it a full body apparition? Was it as real as someone standing in front of you? What did,
Absolutely. She was about 20 feet away. She walked by, she smiled and waved her hand. And that was as clear as day. We've had many people actually hear her. We've had one woman who felt her hand on her hand. She's definitely real. I mean, it's hard, with me, it's hard I try not to do science. I mean, I believe in spirituality, I believe in psychology, and I believe in neuroscience. So I always try to look at every aspect of it. But there's been so many people that have experienced her and never negatively. Always the feeling that she gives is a beautiful feeling.
and when you told me that she likes to go in that room, I think that in itself, if the spirit of a little girl enjoys being in that room, I doubt there could be any kind of negative energy or negative spirits in that room. Otherwise, why would she enjoy, going in there?
Exactly.
Why would she be
Exactly.
seeing, whereas, some of those, negative energies can be the dominant force and scare away those others or dominate the others. And if she continues to be seen in there, yeah, that's proof right there. At least for people like us, that's proof to me. It's like, okay, you're good to go. Now I understand you have a wooden sculpture called La Casa Diablo.
Yes.
What's the story behind this artifact?
It's actually one of my favorite pieces in the museum. It's a beautiful carving from the 18th century. It's depicting some memento mori type of statues in the home of what I call the devil, because it almost looks like they're praying to a demonic force. Originally, when we got the piece, there was a lot of energy attached to it, a lot of negative energy. And actually, it was twice that we actually put it into our downstairs cleansing room because we felt it was too powerful. Aesthetically, it's very interesting, but for some reason, it's been very quiet for the last year. There's like almost no energy to it. It's almost just a beautifully aesthetic piece. And actually, we plan to be putting it on display at the Everhart Museum in Scranton because they would like us to do a display for them in the fall. So that's one of the pieces that we'll be putting at the Everhart Museum. Beautiful
And
sculpture, though.
and you keep it under a case with holy water, what I
Yes,
understand.
yes.
Okay, just to play it safe.
I believe more in prayer than anything else. I mean, obviously, a lot of times people do believe in holy water and other religious items. I just believe in prayer. I believe that the portal is the mind. Like even in Ouija boards, people say, "Oh, yeah, well, I don't even have Ouija boards. I have really talking boards that prior to Ouija because that's a trademark." And
Right.
people say, "Don't play with them." Not that I would. I never would. But the portal, I believe, is the mind. That's the portal. That's the thing that's going to get you. It's a piece of wood. I mean, I sometimes I come into the museum. I live upstairs above the museum, so I have to come on the side door at nighttime. I've got to pass the doll room. I have to pass the Ouija board room. And first of all, when I pass the doll room, I always say, "Abigail, you got my back. Protect me." And then when I pass the Ouija board room, there's some slightly scary things. I just take my fingers and snap the noses and say, "Oh, you don't bother me." It's the portal is the mind. If you let it in, that's the danger, and I
Yeah,
refuse to let it in.
that's what I was going to say, and it slipped my mind when you mentioned that a possessed person may not even be the target; it could be someone else in the household. So it can be a case of where the possessed person is actually a portal to the demonic spirit to their actual target in the house.
Exactly. You know what I find interesting is that we all have finite minds and we're trying to conceive the infinite. We have finite minds that are trying to conceive celestial beings that don't do time, they don't do gravity, and we're constantly trying to figure it out. Well, it's not that easy because we never will be able to figure it out because the celestial beings are so powerful. And a lot of times, it's not demonic. It could be your guardian angel coming into your existence and hiding your keys just so you don't get into a car accident. I believe more times it's actually positive and people get scared because their amygdala gets into a situation where it gets lit up and it's a frightening situation. But I don't think so. I think a lot of times they're actually good spirits.
Yeah, and it's like you've probably seen that old movie. I have a lot of younger friends who are like, "What? Who?" And I'm like, "Oh God," starring George
Oh,
Burns.
sure, right, exactly.
And one line I love in that movie, when he's first talking to John Denver's like, "Well, why can't I see? Why am I just talking to you through the radio?" And he's like, "Not to brag, but if you saw me as I really am, your mind couldn't comprehend it."
Right,
And
right,
it's
exactly.
like, and everyone, especially in the paranormal community, everyone's got different views on the afterlife and finding proof of it. And I personally felt I'm like, I don't think humans, we're ever going to know because we're not meant to know. We'll find out eventually, every one of us.
I agree with you. I mean, I think it's sometimes even prideful to think that we know. And that I think sometimes is actually the demonic entity creating divisions between religions. I mean, it's very prideful to say my religion is right and this religion is wrong. I don't believe that. I mean, I'm a minister ordained and it's a non denomination ministry. We accept everyone because we believe in love, compassion, and charity. And I think I keep it really simple like that: love, compassion, and charity.
Are you familiar? It's He's on the East Coast. Are you familiar, or do you know John Zaffis?
I know who he is. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Uh, in his books, he's always mentioned that he prefers to work with non-denominational ministers like yourself. Uh, and that's when you first said, I'm like, okay, that's who John Jeffers likes to work with, because for the very same reason, they're not so boxed in that it hinders him. they're a little more open to what they have to deal with. So, getting back to a couple of the artifacts now, how do you differentiate between the artifacts that are simply historical and those that you believe carry a form of paranormal energy?
Well, I think the energy is into everything, so it just matters the degree of energy. We try to get historical items. We try to get items that are aesthetically very interesting and have no sensation to them. It's just a matter of a mixture of everything. We are a museum, so we bring in special exhibits at time, and we change off things also. So it just matters of what we're doing at that time. Sometimes we just brought in tons of memento mori sculpture last month, and next year we will be building a beautiful, doing funeral art in the backyard with beautiful funeral art. So it just matters of what we're
Wow.
doing at that time.
Wow. Yeah. One of my early videos was about cemetery and graveyard folklore. So that is just boundless right there. That would be
Fun
fascinating to
stuff.
see.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. Now, have you ever felt the need to decline a particular artifact due to a perceived negative energy or spiritual risk?
Good question. We try to help people when they have items that are just bothering them. We will bring them usually into, we used to have another facility besides the basement, a 3-story garage, which we had outfitted for that. We actually cleaned it today and took all the things out of it, and we're turning it into another display. But we bring them down the basement, which is our cleansing room, and we take most things. If I had something that I really felt was just too negative, we would just burn it and destroy it. And we've done that with items as well.
That was going to be my next question. If you're of the like Ed and Lorraine Warren, their belief was to keep the object intact because it's a vessel, and if you destroy the vessel, you're releasing what's controlling it or what's inhabiting it. So, but there is a way. You feel there's a way just to burn it. Will it won't release it?
Absolutely. And I actually had lunch with them in a big conversation and debate about that many years ago before they passed on.
I would have loved to have been
God
a
bless their
fly.
souls. God bless their souls.
I would have
So
loved to have been a fly on the wall on that one.
I still, I believe you can destroy it. I believe you can destroy it. Now, we don't destroy a lot, but I do believe that sometimes it's just not worth having. And I, again, don't think most things are demonic. I think most things are paranormal. So I don't have a tendency to always go to the demonic. I think a lot of people sometimes go more to the demonic than that's necessary.
I can see that. And in destroying it is a big part of it. Would a big part of destroying it be the ritual and the manner and how you destroy it?
Not really. I mean, believe it or not, a lot of times, and I actually have some videos of me doing that. A lot of times when I do it, it's almost non-ritual. I'll just throw it in the fire, and basically sometimes even I say certain things I shouldn't say, like "go blank yourself." I just keep it really like non-ritual. Remember, I'm from Brooklyn, so I get
I,
I get right to the point.
I was gonna, okay, this is the East Coast way.
Yeah, yeah. I just throw it in and
Hey
say,
here.
"You know what? Go blank yourself."
So yeah, we need a wise guy exorcist.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. That'd be a
that
fun hate.
that would be the show I'd follow. Okay, so I've been to the popular haunted museum. It's in Las Vegas, and I've seen at other paranormal conventions where they brought out some items for display. And my first question about this, because when I went to that other museum in Las Vegas, I actually wore two bracelets. I've told this story before. Uh, two of my sisters each gave me a bracelet to wear. One was a Benedictine bracelet with the St. Benedict prayers on it,
Nice
and the other,
choice.
and the other one, which is really cool, I still have them. The other one was an All Saints bracelet, it's little wooden pictures. So I went there to film, take the tour and then talk about it for a YouTube video with another YouTuber. So we go there. It's like early October, and long story short, you can't film inside, but the guide came out and said, "Hey, we're going to go around to the back of the house, and you can film and take pictures out here." So I'm like, "Cool." And there were Halloween statues or scarecrows outside for decoration. They were really cool. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, get some B-roll." I walked up to them with my camera, my phone, to film them, and my wrist started heating up. Okay, and it wasn't the bracelets. It was the skin around them felt hot little pinpricks. So I wasn't even in the house yet, really, and something there was already reacting to the religious aspects of my bracelets. And so my question, my first question for this has always been the precautions you take. Give me one moment here. Okay. So with these items that have either whether they're demonic, whether they're paranormal, whether they're angelic, well, not I shouldn't say angelic, but what specific rituals or practices do you and your staff perform to protect yourselves when handling or displaying potentially charged artifacts?
Well, I have my staff. I have people from Guatemala, very religious, so they like to pray and pray to Jesus. Megan, my assistant, she's religious also. She does prayers every day with her children. I do believe in prayer, so prayers seem to be one of the main things we do. I have no problem with holy water if it works. And then there's also the placebo effect. If it calms you and makes you feel good, then I'm okay with that as well. But I'm not a big person in anything other than prayers. There are religious items, and I've had my bishops put things around the property, and it's wonderful, and I really appreciate that. But I'm a big person on just praying. That's what I believe in, just praying. And when I pray, I always try to pray for not something I want, but something I want to give back, and just staying simple: love, compassion, and charity. And I think that at least clears my mind not to create a portal where something demonic will occur. Remember, I live above all these items. I love when these paranormal investigators come in, and we had some people come in last week, and they do an investigation, and they're leaving 2 a.m, and they're telling me about all these names they heard and voices. And I'm like, guys, I live here. Like, don't tell me this now. I have to go upstairs and go to sleep now. But I can honestly say that after the Exorcist conference, I'm not afraid. I used to say, well, you know what? I think I'm going to move out and get another place to live. But after that, I just don't feel afraid, even if sometimes there are noises. Because first of all, I always call Abigail. You got the place. You're guarding the place, and I'm okay now. Now that might change. I mean, there might be a time where I open up the door and I see something. I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. I don't need this anymore. Just keep the museum. But at this point, I feel very safe. And even two of my daughters who stay, because the upstairs is still like a beautiful residence. It has nothing to do with the museum. They have felt comfortable staying in their old rooms. And they're like, Dad, we don't feel anything really negative. At first, my one youngest daughter was really afraid because she actually put something in the microwave, and it was a stupid microwave that I bought. And it's one of these things that you have two buttons and you lock. And she couldn't figure it out. And then she finally did. And she turns to me and goes, Dad, what possessed you to buy such a stupid microwave? I say, Francesca, we don't, kidding. I said, we don't use the word possessed in this museum. And all the lights went off in the entire building. That was pretty intense. And then I had to go down the basement to check the lights. And she was like, okay. I said, you stay up here. And she was like, no, I want to go with you. And I'm like, okay, we'll go downstairs. That's the cleansing room. No, I'm going to stay up here. No, I'm going to go with you. Because I don't know where to go, Dad.
Well, kudos to her for coming back after that.
She's actually coming back from South Carolina in a week from Memorial Day, and she's staying at her friend's house. So I don't know why she's not staying at the museum.
So essentially, it's with the items, it's a case by case basis. Everyone
Absolutely.
says their own prayers or what brings them to a certain place of peace, and there's no regular blessings or use of sacred symbols.
Well, we have plenty of crucifixes. I mean, we probably have 100 crucifixes in the entire museum. That in itself is pretty powerful. And we have an entire room dedicated to the edification of the Archangel Michael fighting Satan. So we have beautiful 19th century marble sculptures, beautiful wood sculptures from the 17th to the 19th century. That room itself has, and when people go in that room, the energy changes. Everyone goes, this feels so good. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of positive, items there.
Man, I need to fly out to Pennsylvania because my sister and I, we actually have, we discussed that where her and I both, we like the St. Michael statues or the artwork, any artwork or statues we find relating to St. Michael. I mean, we both have an affinity for that. So an entire room, that sounds amazing.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It truly is. It's very impressive.
So, have you So, have any of your staff or visitors shared anything of like something occurring that may have followed them home uh, from after they've either worked a shift or taken a tour?
Um, Following them home, no, the staff has definitely had many experiences here. There are times when we start early at work because we have the antique business as well, and we would start at 7 in the morning, and literally they won't go in early. They used to just stay together and walk into because the barn on the property has more activity than anything else sometimes. My office is in the barn. That's where I am right now. And I think that's the energy here sometimes. Imagine I go back to the museum to calm down because the energy here is really very powerful, especially at night. We've had visitors have experiences, voices, and movement. We also had one area in the museum where it was in the exorcist room, where in a, in 1 week, 3 people fell down in the exact same spot. However, I do not believe that to be a paranormal experience. What I believe it was an over sensation, just like a lot of times when young girls would faint when they would see the Beatles, or when Elvis Presley would shake his butt and the girls would go, ah, and faint. So I think that that happened from overstimulus of the museum.
So
Because
they may
when I go to a museum, I get overstimulated. I'm like, after a while, I'm like, oh, I got to sit down. So I think that's what that was. I don't believe that was a paranormal
so they
experience.
may have psyched themselves out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I remember that other museum in Las Vegas. I remember I saw an interview. They were talking to one of the employees there, and they kind of asked him, doesn't it worry you or something's going to follow you home? And that employee's perspective was like, well, I think because our job here is to talk about this item, talk about its history, people kind of now know about them, and the whatever spirits, good or bad, that may be there, feel that, hey, they're being remembered. And they know that the tour guide's job is to share that story. So they feel they're pretty much left alone because they do share their story. Would you find that anything similar with maybe with your staff and the locate with the items in your museum?
Yeah, I do. I do feel that, especially with Abigail, who's a very sweet spirit, she likes when I talk about it. She likes when people laugh. She likes when little children hear her voice. So I think that's a very positive situation. And by keeping the good energies alive, I think that's only positive. With the more nefarious, dangerous entities, I always believe you have to know your enemy too. So it's good to be aware. I remember there was one nun in Italy who was talking with me, and she basically, because I showed pictures to a lot of the priests, and a lot of them is like, oh, you can't have Ouija boards, you can't do this. But she was saying by you having this in your collection, you're keeping them out of the hands of other people. Plus, I lecture on how people shouldn't use them. So I think I'm doing a positive situation by actually showing them and talking about it.
Yeah, I mentioned this a few times before on my podcast. I personally don't touch Ouija boards. They're just different experiences with them. And my sister, she actually likes them. She has a few of them. And because she's my big sister, and big sisters are put on earth to torture little brothers,
I've got a big sister.
I have five actually. So
Wow.
I'm I'm the youngest and only boy out of six children. So yeah, I was outnumbered from birth. But and she knows they make me a little uneasy. So what does she do? She's given me two of them over the years, and they're each based on two of my favorite TV shows,
Oh, wow.
Supernatural and Stranger Things. And she knows they're like my favorite shows. And I'm like, okay, they're a gift from my sister. They're cool. I just haven't used them. And she knows. She thinks it's funny. I'm like, again, like I said, torture little brothers. That's what sisters are for.
Right.
So,
And remember, the Ouija boards is a trademark, okay?
right.
They're not as old. When you go back to the 18th century, you have talking boards and spirit boards. They were handcrafted individually. They weren't mass produced like Ouija boards, and they have a lot more strength to them, a lot more paranormal activity.
The older ones or the
Yes.
Ouija? The
They're the
older
older
ones.
ones, yes.
I read somewhere one time there was actually the talking boards, the spirit boards, were actually created by the Freemasons.
There's been talk about that, but I have not seen evidence of that. I think they did create talking boards. I don't know if they were the originators of it.
Okay. So now, a couple more questions about the museum, and then we can wrap up. I so appreciate this conversation. It's just fascinating. I need to fly to Pennsylvania now.
Yeah, you got to
November.
come. Where are you from?
I'm
Texas,
actually,
right?
well, I'm in Austin, Texas right
Okay,
now,
Austin.
and I'm in the process of possibly moving in a few months. That's still up in the air. But yeah, we just came back from Nashville about a week ago. So we went out there, very beautiful, humid, but really cool city. But I love to travel. That's part of my whole YouTube channel is just road trips in the paranormal. You know, not all my videos are about paranormal and not all of them are about road trips. So it's
Okay.
kind of combining it just because I'm a road trip nerd. So, but I mean, so everything you've been telling me in the videos I've seen already, I'm like, I need to go to this
You got
place.
to
And
come. You got to come. You come at
and
nighttime. You walk through the museum at night. We'll do a special tour.
wow, that would be cool. Okay, yeah, okay. I got to start making plans then. But so if you now we've talked about all obviously all the like crazy. I shouldn't say it's crazy, but all the fascinating artifacts you have in there. But it's not just for these all these serious items. As far as I understand, you actually have a Zen garden, a dinosaur park, and a roaming family of peacocks, making it both.
Yes.
So it's both a sanctuary for the curious and a playground for the whole family. I thought that was the dichotomy there was great. I mean,
Well, the whole property is beautiful. So we have four peacocks well, actually two peacocks and two peahens roaming the property. They're really beautiful. We have a Zen area, which is very peaceful. We have a bamboo garden, which is very, very peaceful. And actually, during the good weather, I'm a kendo instructor. I teach kendo. So I do some courses there where we teach kendo. We also have the dinosaur parks, which children really like, and we even have a maze for children. So we have a very friendly property, as well as our gift store for the museum and our beautiful antique store that we have. Plus, 1,000 pieces of sculpture outside, not related to the museum, but beautiful French
yeah,
and Italian sculpture as well.
I remember I saw from a few of the videos where they filmed outside. I'm like, that's very cool. So now, are there? Let me see. Are there? Is there any particular artifact or legend that's eluded your collection efforts but remains like a goal? Is there one particular item that's like, oh, I need to get this, and then I'll be complete?
Um, there are a couple of things that I would love to add to the collection. But the main thing is, I don't know if I'm going to get it, is the Holy Grail. But I doubt if I'm going to actually get it.
Yeah, you might have a bit of a line you got to stand on that one.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be tough.
Yeah, and the guy that has it, like, I don't think he wants to share, but
Yeah, it's not going to probably happen. But I'm
yeah.
always looking for interesting things. Like I said in the beginning, that carriage that I just got, which is going to be probably put in the museum in a couple of months. I'm picking it up in a week. I think that's a major piece. I mean, that's something that's incredible, and I'm excited to put that in the museum.
Now, in what ways do you hope Vampa influences the visitor's perceptions of the intersection between art, folklore, and spirituality?
Well, Vampa has organically changed a lot, and everything's going to the better. People really love the history. They love the ministry that we created there as well. We give back a lot to charities. We had years ago on the property, before Vampa became Vampa, we had 2 years that we had people here, and we're building a playground for children for Ukraine. We give back to every month we have a different organization that we give back to. So I'm hoping that Vampa is a place where people just enjoy the beautiful history, beautiful art, come out for a day and laugh and have a good time. And that's really what the museum is about. As much as we obviously have to take in an income to pay the electric bills, it's really not about money. For thank God that I'm okay. I don't have really big needs for money, so it's really about community. It's about sharing the concept of love, compassion, and charity with people, and talking about things, and people of different backgrounds talking about things, people of different beliefs talking about things. It just gives me pleasure to see people so happy visiting Vampa.
Well, there are so many layers to this. It's just, I'm learning just as we're talking now. This is incredible. So a couple things, and then we can wrap up. I understand you have a couple of events coming up. One is I just like, man, I wish I could be there, but I can't get out there on the 24th. So you have a night of bluegrass and beast,
Yes.
the Devil and Daisy Dirt,
Yes.
and I understand there's an 8-foot wearable puppet involved.
That's what we're doing. This is going to be this coming Saturday. There's still availability for some tickets with that. That's going to be a really fun event. I'm actually not knowing too much information about it. I let my oldest daughter, who helps do the social media, work on that. So it's kind of like going to be a surprise for me. And then we have a cleansing room event also.
So this is some of this is based off your experience from when you studied at the Sarcero Institute. What will you cover in the cleansing room experience?
So the cleansing room experience, we have proceeds going to charity. It's a separate ticketed event. The one we have this month is all sold out already. We usually keep it to about maximum 30 people. I kind of prefer 20, but we max it out at 30. And basically the event is that a private tour I give of the museum. It is at night, so there's more paranormal energy usually at night. I will do a lecture on the Exorcist conference that I attended and go into some various things that happened there. Depending on time, I will discuss Abigail and some really wonderful things that she has done here that I'm very proud of. And then we do a Q&A, and then we'll go down into the cleansing room to the basement where usually people will have private flashlights. They have to watch their heads because there are pipes really low. And then they go down themselves in groups of usually no more than 6, and they'll look around. The items have cards on them, which have names, reference numbers, which are private, so people can't really look up anyone, and what the paranormal situation was with that particular item. And then people will talk about it. It's very interesting because we have items down there that are very, very interesting to look at aesthetically as well as very powerful. Sometimes people can't stay down there too long because the energy is too much. So then they come back up and they get to experience what is going on underneath the rooms of Vampa.
So these items are totally separate from the rest of the museum.
Absolutely, yes. Some of them have been down there 15 years, 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many times a year do you hold the cleansing room experience?
So we'll probably in October, my children try to kill me. They both do the social media, and they basically said, "Dad, you have to work less," and they put every night or 3 in a night, like 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 1 o'clock in the morning, and that's not going to happen. I'm too old for that. But we're probably going to average at about maybe 10 to 14 a year. A lot in October.
Okay.
That's usually when people really love it. We have, we have one this month. I don't know if we have one in June. I have to look on the schedule. But they sell really quick. They really go quick, and it all really, it's really for charities as well. We basically split the proceeds with charities, so it helps various charities.
Wow. This. I mean, again, there's so many layers to the museum. There's the spooky part that draws people in, and then you have the dinosaur park, and then the Zen garden, and then you work with all these charities. I mean, this is like just amazing. So, in closing, what legacy do you hope Vampa will leave in the broader context of cultural and spiritual exploration?
Well, originally, when I purchased the property, my dream was to build a place for children. When I started my business, I was homeless at 17 after my father died. I had to support my mother and grandmother in Brooklyn. It was very difficult. I had no money. And by the time I was 22, I was a self-made millionaire. And I feel very fortunate that I've been able to create for good education for my children, nice housing, giving back to communities. So for me, Vampa is really going to be ultimately a place when I pass on I believe that my children will take over the legacy, eventually maybe being even a 501c corp, a nonprofit, and just give back to communities. And maybe I have a place. I like children. I have, children. I like them. I want children to be safe. And I hope that someday that will be the goal of Vampa. I'll be buried, living in heaven, hopefully, and look down and say, at least my kids are happy and I'm helping other people. That's it. It's that simple. That's what I got.
I mean, what more can you ask for? Really, that's awesome. Well, Edmondo, this has just been a blast. You are such an interesting man. Vampa is such an interesting location. You know what? I'm gonna I'm gonna see what I can do to get out there this year.
That'd be great.
Okay.
I'd love to invite you. We'll have a good time. We'll even get a bite to eat and have dinner. It'd be nice. I like to
Oh,
talk with you.
absolutely. This would be great. And my sister will be furious if I don't bring her along. So I'll bring
Bring
my
her
sister.
along. Bring her
Yeah.
along.
She'll want to, I don't know if we might have to recheck the doll room after she leaves, make sure everything's still there. Okay. And I'm not even only slightly kidding. Okay. So, for those of you watching or this on YouTube, or if you're listening and you want to check it out on YouTube, I will provide links in the description below to Vampa's website and any other social media they may have. That way you can keep up to date with the next cleansing room experience or any other events they hold. Edmondo, thanks again. This has
Thank
been a
you. It was a
blast.
pleasure. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, so did I. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Eric with Beyond the Compass, and we'll see you on the journey.
God bless.